So that made sense for me. So let's get into the advertising campaign. Who here has run Facebook ads? Handful of people? Cool. Okay. I do it for a living, generally, sometimes. I also do it for fun, obviously. So let's get into targeting first. You can target on Facebook by demographic or based on interest, or both. If anybody's familiar with search ads, through Google, what you're targeting on is based on their search query, right? So if you run an exterminator business in Phoenix, you might want to target people that are searching for things like get rid of cockroaches in Phoenix. Well, that's fine. Personally, I would rather hit my target before they're searching. Not that there's anything wrong with search ads, that's part of the funnel too. But what about building that awareness above the actual search intent? And so what I want to do is on Facebook target likely consumers based on a number of things. So in this particular campaign, I set it up by demographics. Single women, ages 28 to 34, within 25 miles of Tempe. But then because I want to target by deeper than demographics, something that is somewhat unique to Facebook is interest-based targeting. So if you have a Facebook profile and you like certain pages, that is now a targeting feature for advertisers to find you with. So for example, there is a new Blu-ray edition of Star Wars coming out in August. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this. I'm very familiar with it. I have pointed out in my Facebook page that I like Star Wars. So Star Wars is now targeting ads at me, letting me know that a new edition of the Blu-rays is coming out in August. And yes, I will part with my $100 when that comes out because I heard about it on Facebook. So in this particular campaign, I did 3 different target groups because I don't do anything without testing. So I built 3 different target groups. One was based around yoga keywords. So if somebody likes yoga, if someone likes certain yoga studios, things like that. And that gave me a base of 940 users. I also targeted based on words that would be similar to Buddhism. So Buddhism, meditation, Eastern spirituality, things like that. 580 users. And then New Age, so things like Eckhart Tolle, if that's how it's pronounced, Deepak Chopra, things like that. And that gave me 420 users. Now, there's other options that would be more relevant to other campaigns. For example, you can target by employer, education level, educational institution, sexual interest, male or female. Those are the only 2 options. So things like that. So quick example in my world that might apply to some of you guys is we run quite a few ads based around employer. So one of our clients right now is targeting only active military personnel. That's the only client, that's the only consumer that can purchase their product. And so we're targeting people who are employed by the U.S. Army, the U.S. Air Force, and the U.S. Navy. And I'm sure that there are businesses out there in this room that could take advantage of this as well. I used to know the manager, social media manager for District Kitchen downtown. Anybody familiar with that? It's in the Sheraton downtown. They have a challenge where they're trying to drive more traffic during lunch, especially during the summer when the hotel's not full. Well, the great thing about that location is they're within 2 blocks of several major employers, including the Arizona Republic and Gannett, which is literally 10 yards across the street from their location. So why not run ads targeting employees of Gannett and say, show us your badge and get 50% off your first meal, something like that. So there's a lot of options when you get into the Facebook ad targeting. Any questions on targeting? Yes?
I went to a seminar a couple of years ago here about Facebook marketing. I don't remember which group it was. And at that time, you couldn't micro-target. Like, for example, where I work, we can only market within Arizona. We can't market outside. So has that changed with Facebook now? You can market solely within Arizona?
Yes. Yeah, so a company that does kind of franchise-based work, like your company, if that makes sense, franchise or whatever it is that distinguishes Arizona from New Mexico, you can target users specifically by what state they live in. Yep. Or within a radius of a city, which is big for sports advertising. So we've worked with some sports teams, and when they run advertising, they can only promote within a certain radius of their home market, a certain radius of their stadium, actually. So you can do that on Facebook. Cool. So let's talk about creative on ads. So I ran 3 different types of creative because, again, oh, we have a question. Yes?
Sorry, it's on the last.
That's okay. I can't see. It's all dark.
Is it possible to do any targeted ads towards around an area, like a check-in area, say a conference or something like that?
That's interesting. You know what? I haven't thought about that, but that sounds really interesting. I wonder if, so you're talking about like if somebody checks in on Facebook Places, like let's say they checked in at the PRSA luncheon today, and I want to advertise that there's a Starbucks across the street or what have you. The only thing that I can think of off the top of my head, because I've never tried that before, is that when you check in at a place, I think it counts as a like of that place. So you might be able to target in that way, but I don't know that for sure. It's really interesting. It's really interesting. It sounds cool. Give it a shot. Or I'll do some research, and if you email me, I'll look into it.
Okay.
I think that would be interesting to find out. Cool. Okay, so creative. There's 3 main areas of creative in a Facebook ad. I'm sure you guys have seen Facebook ads before. But you've got your headline, you've got your image, and you've got your body copy. So I just want to give a few quick tips on this. One, the headline on these is called Matt Simpson. That is not copy best practice, but it's a Facebook ads best practice. I'm keeping my traffic on Facebook. I'm advertising an asset on Facebook, a Facebook fan page. And so when I do that, it sacrifices my ability to write a headline like, date me now, or whatever. In this case, when you're keeping the traffic on Facebook, you're getting certain cost efficiencies that we'll get into later, but you sacrifice the headline to do that. It has to be the name of your page as your headline. It's totally worth it though. Use multiple images. You have to test because you never know which one's going to work out the best. And the image is what grabs the eye. The #1 differentiator between ad success in a testing environment is the images. So for example, I used 3 different images. The one that performed best overall was this one. And my face is partially obscured. So I think that might have something to do with it. But for the target group yoga, the best performing ad was the one on the left, where I'm hiking. So I don't know if they thought that I was some sort of natural guy or something. I've just lost my screen again. I was feeling so much better. Okay. This is the one that I thought would perform the best, the one in the middle. But it performed by far the worst. And a friend of mine named Jen, who somebody in this room knows, because I talked about it just a little bit ago, pointed out that it might be because I'm wearing a hat, and so they think that maybe I'm hiding something, like that I don't have hair. And interestingly, at the time, this image was my main image on Match and my main image for my Twitter profile. And within about 30 minutes of seeing the results, I changed my image on both of those platforms. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
When you're talking about testing,
Yeah.
and you're using multiple images, when you have 3 different categories of like interest-based advertising, like Buddhism, yoga, and New Age, are you taking different images for each category and seeing which one's performing the best? Do you kind of segment it that way?
I do it where I'll use all 3 images against each target group.
Okay.
So what you end up doing is running 9 variants of those ads.
Okay.
And that's what I had time for.
Okay.
I mean, this was not a paid project.
Yeah.
And you know, I set this up honestly on a Saturday night when I was disappointed with the college basketball game result. It was a blowout. So I figured, oh, you know what, I'm going to go build Facebook ads instead of go out and try to meet women. So, so I had time to build 9 ad variants.
Okay.
3 different images, 3 different target groups. You could do more than that. We run a lot more than that
Sure.
for some of our bigger clients.
Okay.
Yep.
Matt, you talked about changing the images. Do you also recommend changing the copy as well? Like using different copy and seeing which one works better?
That is a great question. Yes, I'm a big fan of testing everything. I'm a big dork when it comes to numbers. And the only way you can get numbers is by running a lot of different tests. That said, my personal opinion is that the copy is the least impactful thing that you can change around on a Facebook ad. And that's not the case on all ads, you know, in other media or whatever. But on Facebook, you're really, you deal with a lot of banner blindness on Facebook. And so it's really the image that grabs the attention. The copy, we just try to keep it as short as possible, as succinct as possible. And we never use it for instructional purposes, only because nobody reads it. I've lost the home screen again, by the way, so if we have some technical issues here, bear with me.
Did you hold it? Did you push and hold it?
Did you hold the button down?
Oh, now it's working. Look at that. Holy cow. Open. It like goes to sleep. Okay. So let's see. Moving on. Moving on. Okay. Moving on. Jeez Louise. There we go. Okay. So advertising. On Facebook, what you're dealing with is a auction-based ad platform. And so I'm going to get into some kind of just kind of definitions a little bit, and then some of my experience on how these different things work. So what you're doing on Facebook is you're dealing with an auction-based ad platform, and what that means is that in traditional media you're buying based on a list price. So somebody tells you from the Arizona Republic that an insert in the Sunday paper, it costs blank, right? On Facebook, they don't give you a guaranteed rate. What you're doing is you're competing against other advertisers for inventory. And so the higher you bid and the more effective your ad, the better you perform in their algorithm and the more inventory you earn. Does that make sense? All right. So online inventory, what's that? The Arizona Republic on a Sunday, let's go with the East Valley Tribune because I know those numbers. Anybody remember the East Valley Tribune? I used to work there. When I worked there, the circulation was 100,000 on Sundays, roughly. I knew as a salesman, if I was a salesman, I was not, but if I was a salesman, I knew exactly how many how many prints of the paper I was selling to Earnhardt Ford, Earnhardt Dodge, whatever. It was 100,000 for a Sunday, so I knew what to charge for that. Inventory on Facebook's not sold in that way, because inventory on Facebook fluctuates. Every time I refresh my screen, that's a new page view. So that's a new piece of inventory. So there are times when Facebook is much more active than others. For example, the day after Halloween, Facebook is very, very active. There's a lot of ad inventory the day after Halloween because so many people are uploading photos of their Halloween costume from the night before and looking at their friends' photos. It's kind of cool, actually. And you can see reports online about all these different times, you know, peak times, valley times, all that, which I find incredibly interesting. One of our clients is a consumer packaged goods company. They sell very football-friendly foods, so like finger foods. And so in the week leading up to the Super Bowl, we had this great idea of, oh, let's run a lot of ads on Facebook to drive awareness for this product. Unfortunately, we weren't the only ones that thought of that. We were competing against every snack food in America for that inventory that week. And so our prices went through the roof. It's just the way it goes. Cost per impression versus cost per click. That's pretty straightforward. You can either pay based on how many eyeballs you draw, or you can pay based on how many clicks you drive. And the auction will, the algorithm that Facebook uses will balance those two goals out so that they end up making the most money, you know, which makes sense. It's their business. And suggested bid. Suggested bid comes to you after you set up your ad. Facebook will suggest a bid for you based on your history with the company, based on the landing page that you're driving to, like where the landing page is, things like that. And so, and that's usually a range. And so what you do, what I would recommend, what we always do, is we bid high early. So whatever their suggested bid is, go at the top of the range at first. And then, if you have a good ad, the suggested bid will go down. What you're doing is you're building up trust with Facebook that, hey, I'm not selling something like Star Wars dating site or I'm some schlub looking for dates. I'm selling something that is of great value to your consumers, and so they will click on it. And so Facebook will then serve it more so they can make more money. And you build that trust in the first 24 hours, or you can, and then drop your bid down. Any questions on bidding? Great.